600 other Christians lost their life that day.
Wow.
30,000 lost their homes and were displaced. 8 churches were burnt down. And this is really just the harsh reality of what it looks like to be a Christian in places like Nigeria.
A special guest joining us in studio, Siobhan O'Neill, the Youth and Young Adults Coordinator from Barnabas Aid. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi, Siobhan, all the way from Tauranga via Papatoetoe and Hawaii. Hey.
Yeah.
We just caught up with Siobhan about her accent, and you're a total Kiwi.
Full Kiwi,
And you got a nice little American twang there.
just for the fun.
Hey, so tell us about Barnabas Aid. For people maybe never heard of Barnabas Aid before, what are you guys? How big are you guys? International, New Zealand? Give us the scope and the overview.
Yeah. So Barnabas Aid is a humanitarian ministry. We're an international ministry. And really our heartbeat is to bring hope and aid to persecuted Christians. Our founding scripture is found in Galatians 6:10, and it says, "Therefore, since we have the opportunity, let us do good unto all people, but especially those in the family of faith." And that is because around the world today, there are many places where being a Christian is actually the most dangerous thing you can be. There are places where Christians are left to the lowest paying and most dangerous jobs, and they're rejected from their societies. So that is where Barnabas Aid believes that we are a part of a global family. And it is our duty and our responsibility to love and to care for our brothers and sisters around the globe.
How did you fall into your position as a youth coordinator, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I heard a message about Barnabas Aid from my now boss, and I just remember being so inspired. And I was like, I remember seeing how much of an impact they were making, and I was like, I want to be a part of that. If I can be a small part of that movement to bring hope and aid to our suffering brothers and sisters, I want in. And so then I ended up interning with them, and now I'm the Youth and Young Adults Coordinator. And that kind of looks like I split into 2 things, awareness and action. So bringing awareness to what it looks like to be a persecuted Christian around the globe, as it's not something we see a lot of in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And then secondly, action. How can we encourage action and encourage people with the amazing work that is being done, and then call people and invite people into the action of prayer?
Are you surprised sometimes, because obviously you're communicating this to a lot of people, sharing the stories from overseas and other places. Are you surprised sometimes at the lack of awareness that a lot of Christians in New Zealand have of what it's like around other places in the world?
Yes, because I remember 2 years ago it was something that I didn't know a lot about. And it's something that you kind of hear of here and there, but you don't understand what that looks like on a day-to-day basis, and how even students are being failed on their exams simply because they love Jesus. So they can't they can't further education. And it's like so many different areas Christians are suffering in big and small ways.
How do you mobilize your youth? Do you find that challenging around the globe? Or are they like all in? You're finding the numbers are pretty much really, really good and positive with a lot of young people wanting to be involved?
I think they tune into stories and they love hearing about stories. And I think I've seen that this generation want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. We want to bring hope. We want to find purpose and meaning. And when I share these stories of persecution and how we can make a difference, I think it sparks a passion. And that's kind of my heart, is how can I spark a passion in the youth of the young adults of New Zealand? When I speak at churches and life groups and different adventure camps, how can I spark a passion for the persecuted church?
How many countries do Barnabas Aid sort of working alongside it with the persecuted church around the world? Because it's Barnabas Aid International, right? So how big is the organisation, and how many countries are you kind of connected to?
So in a year, we work between 50 to 60 different countries, many places all over the globe, Africa, Asia, areas like that. And then we've got offices and around in different areas. So yeah, it's quite big. Over the last 30 years, we've worked in over 113 different countries.
Wow. Well, coming up next, we're going to hear some stories from the field, actually, and what it's like to be a persecuted Christian, especially around this time of year, around Christmas, a very Christian event. What does that look like compared to what it looks like here in New Zealand, focusing especially in on Nigeria. So stick around, get some more details on that. I mean, coming into Christmas, big celebration here in New Zealand. Everything's all Christmassy. It's not overly Christian in a lot of senses, but I mean, you still see a lot of Christian stuff attached to Christmas around the place in public. But in a lot of countries, that is not the same, right?
Yeah, so even to start, I would love to ask our listeners to reflect, what were they doing last Christmas Eve? Who were they with? And for many of us, it is a time where there's excitement and anticipation to be with family, to open gifts, and to celebrate Jesus and gifts and feasting. But maybe for some of us, actually, it is a time of sorrow, where last Christmas maybe a loved one didn't make it to this Christmas. And maybe we can use that sorrow to help understand what it is for many Christians in Nigeria. And in Nigeria, many Christians suffer immense violence and persecution across the middle belt of Nigeria. And last Christmas Eve, rural Christian villages, they got together to celebrate the life of Jesus. But because they gathered in larger numbers, this made them a target to extremists.
Yeah.
And these extremists came and attacked these villages and these gatherings with machetes and guns. And Nation, which we can read about on one of our magazines, page 15, and it talks about how Nation and her 3 daughters and her husband were some of those people. And they were injured by machetes, but they didn't lose their lives. And they were just a few that didn't lose their lives, but they lost everything. Their homes were destroyed and burnt down. 600 other Christians lost their life that day.
Wow.
30,000 lost their homes and were displaced. 8 churches were burnt down. And this is really just the harsh reality of what it looks like to be a Christian in places like Nigeria. But their story doesn't end there. I like to bring awareness and encourage action. And what Barnabas Aid has been able to do here is we're in a process of rebuilding their villages. And we're giving counseling to traumatized survivors. We have some incredible projects of self-sustainability projects like Opportunity Africa to help in places like Nigeria, to bring hope in these places.
Man, that's very harrowing, confrontational at the same time, and you're bringing a lot of awareness to it. I mean, we were talking off air about, our roles and what we do. In our job, nothing changes. We come in and do the same thing every single day. You, however, you must come to work and you're faced with these sort of situations that are around the globe. Have you been out in the field and experienced this yourself and seen and done the work that you do out in the field yourself?
Not yet. I haven't traveled with them yet, but I feel like I get a good awareness and a heart just through reading and hearing these stories. Helps inspire me. Yeah.
Must be a pretty kind of dynamic response as to what Barnabas Aid do, right? Because you're supporting the persecuted church, and what does that look like individually and at different countries and at different times when, like you said, the big event like that happens and there's this horrible, tragic loss of life and then it's like, okay, what can we do here? Is that quite? It's sort of the main work of Barnabas Aid in assisting these people. Is that kind of just into response, whatever their situation is?
Yeah, so we've got over 123 different projects. So that looks like disaster relief, but rebuilding villages, rebuilding churches, educational programs, business, entrepreneurial business, and development, self-sustainability programs. So we've got a wide variety that is split up into 12 main categories. So wherever the need is to help bring hope and practical aid to these suffering and persecuted Christians, that is how we work.
Practically, what's your call to action for somebody plugging in right now? What do you want them to take away from what you've spoken about this morning, Siobhan, and what can they do practically to help?
Yeah, beautiful question. I think this Christmas, as we open up different gifts, I would love to encourage our listeners that every single time that we buy a gift or we open a new gift, can that be a reminder of the gift of the freedom of faith that we have here in New Zealand? And can it practically remind us to how can we give the gift of prayer, to pray for our persecuted brothers and sisters around the globe, for persecuted and suffering Christians and God's hand of protection over them this Christmas. You've
been so good, Siobhan. It's been awesome to get a bit of an insight into Barnabas Aid and what you do and how people can kind of connect with that. If you go to barnabasaid.org, you can find out more. And you go around, you're the youth and young adults coordinator. So if people were like, I would love Siobhan to come and speak to our church or youth or whatever, How do they do that? Is that a thing?
Yes. So, yeah. So you can call up our amazing office staff and get my contacts through there. And I am always available to come speak. I just spent 2 weeks down south talking with different youth groups in the South Island. And they
Awesome.
are a part of praying for Nigeria right now. So join the movement.
Dude, be careful
Very
what you
cool.
wish for.
Yeah.
You're going to be busy. You're going to be busy. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Siobhan.
Thank you.
Happy Christmas.
Thank you.